A carrier strike group is not a single vessel. It is a city. At its center, a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier displacing over 100,000 tons, its flight deck longer than 3 American football fields, its crew of 5,000 operating in a structure of organized complexity that civilian engineering cannot fully replicate. Around it, a rotating constellation of guided missile cruisers, destroyers, and attack submarines arranged in a protective geometry that has been refined through 7 decades of fleet doctrine and adversarial learning. Above it, a continuous cycle of fixed and rotary wing aircraft maintaining surveillance, patrol, and response readiness across a sphere of ocean that extends further than most nations are wide. The Carrier Strike Group is the most powerful conventional naval force in human history, and it is also, by the standards of its own tactical requirements, surprisingly vulnerable to a specific category of threat that costs a fraction of a percent of its own value to deploy. The laser, not a science fiction weapon, not a directed energy system of the kind that defense procurement offices have been promising for 30 years. A commercial-grade, militarized laser dazzler. A device that fits in a shoulder bag, costs between $8,000 and $40,000 depending on power output and military specification, and is capable of temporarily blinding the pilot of a helicopter flying at an altitude of 500 feet at a range of 2 nautical miles. The IRGCN had been deploying laser dazzlers against U.S. naval aviation assets in the Persian Gulf since at least 2019. The incidents were documented, formally protested, and continued. The device was too cheap, too small, too easily concealed in the equipment manifest of any vessel claiming to be a fishing boat, and too effective at its specific purpose to be deterred by any diplomatic response that fell short of kinetic action, which was precisely the category of response the gray zone was designed to prevent. A carrier strike group transiting the Persian Gulf operates within a navigational environment that places its surface and air assets in proximity to IRGCN patrol zones, regardless of route selection. The Persian Gulf is 989 kilometers long and 370 kilometers wide at its broadest point. A carrier strike group is a formation that requires significant sea room to operate its air wing safely. The intersection of those two facts meant that every carrier transit of the Gulf produced a geometry that the IRGCN had studied, mapped, and prepared specific operational responses to. They knew the carrier's air wing operating altitudes. They knew the helicopter escort patterns. They knew that a Seahawk operating at 400 feet on a standard search pattern to the carrier's port quarter passed within 2 nautical miles of certain points along the northern transit route at predictable intervals. The operation that began at 4:22 a.m. on a Tuesday in late September had been planned against that knowledge. At 4:22 a.m., the carrier strike group was in the central Persian Gulf on a westbound transit heading, the carrier flanked by its escorts in standard defensive geometry. The night was absolute, no moon, an overcast sky that eliminated starlight, the Gulf's flat, warm darkness broken only by the running lights of the formation and the distant AIS returns of commercial traffic in the southern shipping lane. The flight deck was operational, 2 FA-18S on alert standby, 2 MH-60R Seahawks in rotating patrol, 1 E-2C Hawkeye on airborne early warning station. Standard transit posture, controlled, professional, the kind of formation that had made this transit dozens of times and understood its own routine. At 4:22 a.m., the portside Seahawk received a laser strike. Not a warning, not a test pulse, a sustained, aimed illumination from bearing 312 degrees at a range the pilot estimated as between 1 and 2 nautical miles. A green laser, military grade, held on the cockpit for approximately 4 seconds before the pilot executed the standard laser protocol: break off the line of sight, report the incident, maintain aircraft control. The co-pilot took the controls for the 12 seconds it took the pilot's visual acuity to recover sufficiently to confirm aircraft status. The Seahawk was undamaged. Both crew were functional. The incident was reported to the carrier's CIC within 90 seconds. In the CIC, the laser strike report was received by a tactical team that had been briefed on IRGCN laser doctrine before the transit began. The report produced immediate action on 2 parallel tracks: a surface search radar sweep of bearing 312 at the estimated range, and an alert to the starboard side Seahawk to increase altitude and adjust patrol pattern. The radar sweep of bearing 312 found nothing clean. At 1.8 nautical miles in the darkness, the return signature of a small vessel running without lights against the background clutter of a moderate Persian Gulf night swell was borderline, present possibly in the noise floor, but not resolvable as a distinct contact with the confidence required for classification. The laser had come from somewhere. The radar could not tell them exactly where. The carrier's commanding officer was on the bridge. The strike group's tactical commander was in the carrier's CIC. The escort destroyers, CICs, were tracking the same picture from their own sensors, adding their own radar coverage to the geometry. 4 ships looking at the same sector of ocean from different angles, building a composite picture that was better than any single picture, and still not finding a contact they could point to and say, "There, the contact is running dark," the CIC tactical officer said. No AIS, no lights, radar cross-section consistent with a small craft, possibly Boghammar-type or smaller. Range estimate 1.5 to 2.2 nautical miles, bearing 310 to 315. CPA to the carrier at current formation speed, approximately 1.6 nautical miles if the contact holds station. A Boghammar, the IRGCN's older patrol vessel class, slower than the PACAP, larger, more stable as a platform for operating crew-served equipment. A stable platform was exactly what you needed when the equipment you were operating required you to hold a narrow beam on a moving target a mile away in the darkness. The Boghammar's lower speed was an acceptable trade for the platform stability that made the laser effective. At 4:31 a.m., the starboard Seahawk received a laser strike. Same profile, green, sustained, approximately 4 seconds, bearing 048 degrees from the Seahawk's current position. The starboard side contact was distinct from the first, bearing 048 from the Seahawk's patrol position, placed it at bearing 068 from the carrier's current position, roughly northeast. The first contact had been at bearing 312, northwest. 2 contacts on opposite sides of the formation's transit track, both running dark, both equipped with the same type of laser system, activated 11 minutes apart. Geometry. The CIC tactical officer put the two data points on the tactical display and drew the line between them. Northwest contact and northeast contact, separated by approximately 4 nautical miles across the carrier's transit path, both capable of laser coverage of any aircraft operating at standard patrol altitude in the airspace between them. The CPA of the carrier's track to contact 1, approximately 1.7 nautical miles if the formation held course. The CPA to contact 2, approximately 2.1 nautical miles, both within laser engagement range, both calculated to remain within range for the duration of the transit through the central Gulf, unless the formation made a significant course deviation, which was, of course, the point. They're building a gauntlet, the tactical officer said, not loudly, factually. A gauntlet, 2 fixed laser platforms positioned on either side of the transit lane, covering the airspace between them, designed to degrade helicopter operations along the carrier's approach to the Strait's western exit. Degrade the helicopter coverage and the formation's surface surveillance picture degraded with it. Degrade the surface surveillance picture and the fast attack approach that the Seahawk's presence was designed to detect and intercept became significantly more viable. The laser platforms were not the primary threat. They were the precondition for the primary threat. The cost and material of what the IRGCN had deployed was modest. 2 Boghammar-type vessels, replacement value approximately $3 million each, carrying laser equipment worth perhaps $80,000 in total, positioned in the dark in the central Persian Gulf to create a $6 million problem for a strike group representing $28 billion in U.S. naval investment. The asymmetry was the point. The gray zone was built on asymmetry. At 4:38 a.m., the third laser contact appeared, not from the northwest or the northeast, from bearing 180 directly south of the carrier's position at a range the radar could not precisely determine, but that the starboard Seahawk, now at elevated altitude, was able to estimate at approximately 2.4 nautical miles, based on the angular geometry of the illumination it received when it passed the southern edge of its patrol sector. 3 contacts, northwest, northeast, and south. A triangle. The CIC tactical officer updated the tactical display. The triangle's geometry covered the carrier's immediate operating space from 3 directions simultaneously. Any helicopter operating at standard patrol altitude anywhere in the formation's surface envelope was within laser coverage range of at least 1 contact, and in the center of the transit corridor within range of 2. The tactical commander, reviewing the display from the carrier's CIC, recognized the operation for what it was within 30 seconds of the third contact's report. Not 3 opportunistic laser attacks, a coordinated, pre-planned operation designed to deny the carrier strike group effective helicopter coverage during the approach to the western exit of the Persian Gulf, a transit choke point where the formation's sea room compressed and the IRGCN's fast attack assets operating from shore bases on the northern coast had their best approach geometry. Degrade the air cover, then use the degraded surface surveillance picture to approach with fast boats in the darkness before the formation could reconstruct its defensive picture. The operation had a sequence. The laser triangle was Act 1. Get the laser contacts positions nailed, the tactical commander said. I want a solution on all three before we respond. The composite radar picture from 4 ships, carrier plus 3 escorts, each adding its own sensor coverage to the problem, had been building since the first laser strike at 4:22 a.m. By 4:41 a.m., 19 minutes into the incident, the composite picture had resolved sufficiently to assign probability-weighted position estimates to all 3 contacts. Not exact. None of the contacts had provided a radar return clean enough for precise localization, but bounded. Contact 1, northwest, 1.6 to 1.9, nautical miles, bearing 311 to 314, CPA to carrier track 1.7, 2 nautical miles. Contact 2, northeast, 2.0 to 2.4, nautical miles, bearing 065 to 072, CPA to carrier track 2.1 nautical miles. Contact 3, south, 2.2 to 2.6 nautical miles, bearing 178 to 183, CPA to carrier track 2.3 nautical miles. 3 bounded position estimates, not targeting solutions. Awareness. The first friction arrived at 4:43 a.m. from the air. The port-side Seahawk, whose pilot had received the first laser strike at 4:22 a.m., had been maintaining the elevated altitude patrol pattern ordered after the initial incident. At 4:43 a.m., transitioning from the northern leg of its patrol to the eastern leg, the Seahawk passed through the overlap zone between Contact 1's northwestern coverage and Contact 2's northeastern coverage at approximately 600 feet altitude. At 600 feet, the laser energy from a military-grade dazzler at 1.8 nautical miles was below the threshold for the acute, temporary visual disruption that the pilot had experienced at lower altitude. But below threshold was not zero. The pilot reported a brief visual artifact, a green afterimage in the left visual field, lasting approximately 2 seconds, not affecting aircraft control, not requiring crew transfer, not a laser strike by the operational definition used in incident reporting, a residual effect from operating in a contested laser environment at altitude. The distinction mattered for the incident log. It did not change the fact that the pilot's left eye acuity had been marginally affected for 2 seconds while managing a helicopter at 600 feet in total darkness over the Persian Gulf. The pilot noted it, reported it, continued the patrol. The tactical commander noted the report. It confirmed that the elevated altitude had reduced, but not eliminated, the laser threat's effectiveness. The contacts were powerful enough to produce residual effects at 600 feet. Dropping back to standard patrol altitude remained inadvisable. "What are we doing to their picture?" the tactical commander asked. The question was not rhetorical. In a gray zone engagement, the adversary was also building a tactical picture, reading the carrier's responses, assessing what the U.S. side knew and didn't know, calibrating their next move against what the formation was doing. The IRGCN laser contacts had been running dark since before the first strike at 4:22 a.m. They had seen no searchlights, no targeting illumination, no indication from the U.S. formation that their positions had been localized. In the absence of that feedback, their operational assumption would be that they remained undetected, which was the assumption the tactical commander intended to exploit. Nothing yet. We let them think they're invisible until we're ready. At 4:47 a.m., The escort destroyer on the carrier's port quarter completed a passive sensor sweep that produced the most precise localization of Contact 1 achieved so far, bearing 312.4 degrees, range 1.72 nautical miles. CPA to the carrier's track confirmed at 1.72 nautical miles, stationary. Movement pattern consistent with a vessel holding station with minimal engine activity. The contact was not maneuvering. It was parked, a platform, positioned to provide laser coverage and waiting for the next aircraft to pass within range. Parked was ideal. A stationary contact in the Persian Gulf night at 1.72 nautical miles was a contact that was not going anywhere before the tactical commander's response reached it. At 4:49 a.m., the second friction arrived from the formation's own communications architecture. The strike group's encrypted tactical network, the link connecting the carrier's CIC to all three escort ships' CICs in a shared real-time tactical picture, experienced a synchronization dropout lasting 22 seconds. Not a failure. A scheduled encryption key rotation that had been timed in the operation plan to occur during a low-threat period of the transit. The transit's threat environment had changed since the operation plan was written. For 22 seconds, the four ships' tactical displays were showing slightly different versions of the composite picture, each ship's local display holding its last received common update, while the link re-established 22 seconds in which the tactical commander was making decisions based on a display that was 22 seconds stale. During a developing engagement in which the adversary's contacts were position estimated rather than precisely tracked, and any movement in those 22 seconds would not be reflected in the display until the link restored. The link restored at 4:51 a.m. The composite picture updated. Nothing had changed. All three contacts had held their positions. But the 22 seconds had happened, and the tactical commander had made one decision during that window: to delay the response by 4 minutes to allow the port quarter destroyer to complete a second position refinement pass. Based on a display that was, for those 22 seconds, not fully current. The decision was sound regardless, but it had been made on incomplete data, and the tactical commander noted it in the log for the after-action. At 4:53 a.m., the tactical commander issued the response order. All three contacts simultaneously. Searchlights, maximum output. Seahawks reposition over each contact. LRAD, bearings assigned to each escort. Execute. The response was not graduated. It was simultaneous and comprehensive, designed to produce, at the same moment, the full weight of the formation's non-kinetic response capability against all three contacts before any one contact could react to the other's treatment and adjust. The carrier's portside searchlight array activated at bearing 312, 2.5 million candela, reaching across the darkness toward Contact 1's estimated position and finding it. A Boghammar-type vessel, 18 meters, running without lights. 2 crew members visible on the deck in the searchlight beam. A tripod-mounted laser system visible on the foredeck. The beam held. The Boghammar was lit. It could no longer deny its position to anyone with eyes. Simultaneously, the starboard side searchlight trained to bearing 068, finding Contact 2. Another Boghammar, another tripod-mounted laser system, this one on the aft deck. Crew in the beam. The port quarter escort destroyer's searchlight activated bearing 180. Contact 3. Same profile. 3 vessels, 3 laser systems, all illuminated simultaneously at 4:53 a.m., their positions confirmed, their equipment visible, their operational cover eliminated in the same second. The Seahawks repositioned. The port-side aircraft descended from 600 feet to 200 feet and established a hover 300 yards from Contact 1, its flyer locked on the Boghammar's foredeck and its own lighting array, adding to the illumination. At 200 feet, the downwash from the rotor system reached the surface of the Persian Gulf and created a visible circle of disturbed water between the helicopter and the vessel below. The LRAD on the port quarter destroyer activated bearing 312, a directed acoustic signal that reached Contact 1 as an uncomfortable, focused sound that required no translation. We know where you are. We are directly above you, and we have every system on this contact that we care to have on it. Contact 1's laser system disappeared from the foredeck within 40 seconds of the searchlight finding the vessel. A crew member carried it below. The specific sequence of that action, laser equipment removed from the deck and stowed below within 40 seconds of illumination, was not the action of a crew responding to a surprise. It was the action of a crew that had a procedure for this contingency and was executing the procedure, which meant this had been considered, planned for, and briefed, which meant the IRGCN had expected the possibility of exposure and had decided the operation was worth executing anyway. The tactical commander registered that inference and set it aside. What mattered now was the picture at 4:54 a.m., 1 minute after the response order, 3 contacts illuminated, equipment being stowed on Contact 1, Seahawks overhead on all 3 contacts, LRAD active on the 2 contacts within range. At 4:56 a.m., Contact 1's engine note changed. The Seahawk crew overhead reported it before the radar updated. A change in engine sound quality consistent with propulsion engagement. Contact 1 was beginning to move, slowly, 2 to 3 knots, turning north, back toward the Iranian coast. Contact 1 underway, bearing north. CPA opening, now 2.1 nautical miles. Contact 2, also underway, speed 4 knots, bearing 055. CPA opening. Contact 2 was heading northeast, back toward the Keshem area, or the approaches to Bandar Abbas. Away. Contact 3, the southern vessel, remained stationary for another 3 minutes under the escort's searchlight and the Seahawk's overhead position, its laser equipment already below decks, its crew visible on the deck, doing nothing in particular. Then it too engaged propulsion, bearing south curiously, before turning gradually west and then northwest, a longer withdrawal route, perhaps a different home base. At 5:04 a.m., all 3 contacts were beyond 3 nautical miles and continuing outbound. The Seahawks maintained observation altitude on their respective contacts for another 18 minutes, tracking them until their bearing from the formation exceeded the practical range of the helicopter radar at the altitude being maintained. By 5:22 a.m., all 3 contacts had passed beyond confident tracking range and were presumed continuing outbound toward the Iranian coast. At 5:06 a.m., with all 3 Boghammar contacts confirmed withdrawing, the tactical officer in the carrier's CIC had updated the surface threat picture. No additional contacts within 5 nautical miles of the formation, showing IRGCN consistent profiles. The fast attack approach that the laser triangle had been designed to enable, the second phase of the operation, the fast boats that were presumably positioned somewhere north of the formation's track, waiting for the helicopter coverage to be degraded, had not materialized. Without the laser triangle maintaining the degraded air cover picture, the fast attack element had no approach window that the Seahawks couldn't cover. The second phase had been predicated on the first phase succeeding. The first phase had not succeeded. The tactical commander did not consider it resolved. He added 30 minutes to the standard Seahawk patrol interval and increased the patrol altitude to 800 feet for the remainder of the transit, which put the aircraft above the effective range of any laser system the IRGCN had been documented deploying. The 30-minute extension cost additional flight hours. The altitude adjustment cost nothing but the slight reduction in surface resolution that 800 feet produced versus 400 feet. Both were costs worth paying. At 5:30 a.m., the formation completed the transition from the central Gulf to the approach to the Strait of Hormuz. The threat picture showed nothing unusual. Commercial traffic in the shipping lanes, the standard ambient radar environment of the Gulf's western waters. No contacts requiring specific attention. The pilot who had received the first laser strike at 4:22 a.m. completed his patrol rotation and returned to the carrier at 5:40 a.m. He was evaluated by the flight surgeon, standard protocol after any laser exposure. His vision was normal. He was cleared for the next rotation without restriction. He had been on station for 2.5 hours, had received 1 direct and 1 residual laser illumination, had maintained aircraft control throughout, and had completed his patrol assignment without deviation from the ordered pattern. He did not consider this remarkable. The standing order was the patrol pattern. The patrol pattern had been flown. The laser had not changed the pattern. That was the entirety of it, from his perspective, and from the perspective of every crew member whose job had been to hold their assigned position, while 3 IRGCN vessels spent 44 minutes trying to create a picture that justified the fast boats closing in. The fast boats had not closed. The picture had not developed the way the operation required, and the formation had transited the central Gulf to the Hormuz approach on its assigned track, on schedule, without alteration. 3 IRGCN Boghammar vessels, 2 laser systems confirmed visually, 3 total deployed. 44 minutes from first laser strike to last contact, withdrawing beyond tracking range. 1.72 nautical miles, closest confirmed approach of any laser contact. 0 course deviations by any formation vessel. 0 degradation of helicopter coverage beyond the temporary adjustments that the crew managed in real time. 0 fast attack approach executed. The laser gauntlet required the air cover to fail. The air cover did not fail. And a gauntlet that the formation simply walked through is not a gauntlet at all. It is a corridor, and corridors go somewhere the person walking them wants to go. The formation went where it was going. That was enough.